I've been vegan for a year and a half now, and I've expanded my knowledge in the areas of philosophy and ethics, taking a threshold deontologist position. But with topics that require evidence, I'm unbiased and neutral until it is objectively proven or presented with strong evidence. I noticed, however, not all topics can be solved with evidence, and by necessity a evidence hierarchy. Although there is obvious amounts of evidence of sentience in animals, I still find it odd how not many vegans and animal rights activists acknowledge the roots of the problems animals face every day. Everyone's quick to point out that it requires the government to change to stop harming animals. But I'm not so sure about this. The way I see it, there's factors that lead into animal cruelty, and that cruelty is enabled by this exploitation. Although trust is another thing in that we need trust to rely on people's ability to carry out tasks. Trust unfortunately is the thing that any industry will ignore in favor of making a profit. That's to say, they don't believe in trust, so that logically leads us to believe we have no reason to trust them. How can you trust a welfarist approved product when it's owned by a corporation? And when I thought really deep about this, about what it means to have welfare, I realized welfare can only exist when there isn't money on the line. I was researching two organizations recently called the Humane Society and American Humane. The Humane Society does this weird armchair activism thing where they advocate for welfarism but completely ignore the point that in order to get welfare, you need to stop involving animals. And American Humane is no different, where I discovered they are hired to go on movie sets to make sure the animals are not "abused." But the movie I saw recently, The Green Knight, it was not my sort of movie by the way. I didn't like it. In that movie, they were riding horses and even spooked a horse at one point on camera. Doesn't sound humane to me. Not to mention importing farm animals onto the scene at the start. What I find dumb is they are probably able to CGI the horses in, or animals for that matter. And why wouldn't you? It's cheaper. It can potentially help other industries if it was open to the public. It really felt like a missed opportunity. They had a really cool CGI fox in it for Fox's sake. There is no excuse anymore. I can't believe I have to repeat this point sometimes. We do not need to use animals anymore. There is no reason anymore. Everything we are required to live as humans, and that includes domesticated animals, can be found in plants, or is only found in plants depending on what it is. And it is often cheaper to my knowledge. The answer to stopping cruelty isn't simple, but I have understood how it can be stopped, and it takes honesty and acknowledging the reality we are in. Doctor is exploitation enables everything bad. And it's our lack of trust that is to blame for this, something we can't change today, seeing as, scalpers exist, ruining people's Christmases and well-beings. To explain this further, I'll talk about each point I've found where we can improve in fighting against exploitation. 1. Strike at the roots. There's a reason why you should not criticize the fact people do animal rights activism. It's because the roots of all problems often stem from governments and corporations, and then bleed into this class-based society, influencing people to believe that corporations can do no evil. Thankfully most of us have evolved to a point where we realize they can do evil, and both corporations and governments are terrified at protest. But a lot still don't do that, and we need to strike where it hurts, which is a combination of society and government, and everything in between. It would take a very smart and very honest politician to create effective change in this area. 2. As I call it, strike at the roots. 2. Understand what you're against. Playing into the narrative that nothing is as simple as it's made out to be, it's also important to understand what you could get wrong. I have this ability to challenge my own positions in terms of consistency and logic. This makes my arguments stronger because I'm not really clutching at straws or assuming by doing it, because I spot the strawmans and assumptions before I say them, assuming I'm not suffering from mental health issues. With regards to this topic, we are against the government, the corporations, and the people. I know exactly what they are thinking and how we get to them. My next point explains another reality, but as far as I know, people are dishonest, and it can take a few clicks for them to acknowledge where they are wrong. The same as politicians. With corporations, we need to create supply and demand for vegan products to create change, or, if we have the balls to, we overrun corporations by eliminating the people at the top, not saying what I mean by it, and taking over, basically turning into a socialist society overnight. Because we can do that. We just need people to wake up and rebel. 3. Understand that nothing is that simple. This is true. Getting to people isn't going to be easy. I acknowledged this early on in being vegan. Even if I use my strongest arguments in favor of veganism, my opponents will always find ways to avoid answering the question or responding to it. Or if they do, they will be dishonest. It's as the saying is, easier said than done. When it comes to animal exploitation, people can't get over the concept and instead equate it to cruelty because that's all they see it for. Even though it's not, and my final point explains what I mean by this. But you should keep talking about the issue until they understand. 4. The cycle. In my thinking, I realize there's a cycle that applies in a human context. Exploitation enables commodification. Commodification enables cruelty and death. Exploitation is the root in all this, with of course that previous point being true here, as it's not only exploitation, it's the people as well. People need to realize the acceptance and enabling of exploitation is where every rights violation comes from. Anti-vax people exploit their right to freedom by going out, not wearing a mask during a pandemic, and as a result, create cruelty and death in their path. This creates the cycle. But note, when we say cycle, remember, the perfect circle doesn't exist. Cycle doesn't mean circle. But of course, a wrench in the works can stop the cycle. Clearing up a misconception. I actually forgot what I was going to write here. I think I've summed up all I know about this. To people saying we just need to change the way animals are treated, this is not possible. We are in an industrial era where efficiency and profits are the focus of most of the corporations. Sadly, this seeped its way into the games and entertainment industry. Animal cruelty can only stop when exploitation stops, and that requires people to acknowledge exploitation enables everything bad and is wrong for that reason. If I haven't already, the definition according to Oxford Languages is the action or fact of treating someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work. Oh yeah, I remembered. People are going to say you're just trying to force veganism onto people. Or you're just clutching at straws. Read the disclaimer again and acknowledge that I have only mentioned vegan 5 times in this entire script. Although going vegan is the best thing to do to stop animal exploitation and cruelty, I'm not so certain it can stop all of it. But wording is important there. I said best thing to do, not the only thing to do. We still have the wild animal suffering topic, which is really complex. To the point where we can't even strike the roots there, and we may actually need to pave over it, which is the only solution I've heard that makes sense. Especially in the killing predator animals debate. My end goal, even though I don't have much love for animals, is to acknowledge in all my honesty where I'm making mistakes, and how I can potentially help prevent others from making mistakes. Yes, it's true. I find animals cute. I think they can do adorable and funny things, but as living beings, they are not really impactful on my life. I adore their innocence though. I just don't adore that they're dumb. For lack of a better term, dumb beings have a right to life. Ironically, when I said this, my dog was barking outside my door. I turned to see him just barking at the bathroom door because a roommate was in there, so I opened my door wider as I only have it open a crack. Said hi, and then he began barking at me and didn't come in, even though the door was open. Kinda funny. It's dumb, yes, but in a funny way. I just find the dumbness sad when it comes to harming other people. Their lack of an ability to comprehend humans and human topics. That's where I've lost respect for animals, admiration even. I'm unsure what words I can use to describe it, so it doesn't sound insulting, because I disagree with insulting full stop. Anyway, hopefully I taught people something today. I'm definitely not that motivated to make content like this anymore, partly because I've been dealing with dark thoughts for so long, and pretty bad mental health issues. I managed to find a way to forget about it all. I just need some inspiration and someone to talk to about my day or weeks. The other day, I truly felt as though I could feel a tail wagging inside me. I wish I could have that feeling at least once every day. but I certainly can't get there by being silent on issues I'm aware of. Remember, if you really care about stopping animal cruelty, you need to strike at the roots and start by changing yourself first, then others. Be the change you want to see. I'll also bring this up because I do care about human rights as well. There are non-offending or once offended pedophiles who change themselves for the better because they acknowledge it's a rights violation to sexually exploit and harm children. They do the virtuous thing because they are honest and empathetic. Or am I talking about myself here? As for why I care about animals with a lack of respect for animals, it's because I can empathize. I imagine what it would be like if I were in their situation. I know from how uncomfortable that thought is that I shouldn't force them into that situation.